You're listening to the Piano Parent Podcast with Shelly Davis, episode 380. Hey there, and welcome to the Piano Parent Podcast. I'm Shelly Davis, a longtime piano teacher and parent with my husband of 4 mostly musical kids. As parents, we spend so much time trying to encourage and motivate our kids. We wonder if we're doing the best things for them. We second guess our decisions, and we worry if we're going to scar them for life. While you focus on encouraging your kids, I'm here to reassure and inspire you. I'll be here every week with practice tips, inspirational teacher interviews, and musical topics to help you impress your kids with your musical knowledge. Parenting is not for the faint of heart, but it's much easier with support, and you have come to the right place. Good morning, piano parents. Thank you for tuning into the show today. This is episode 380, and though I have been inconsistent from time to time over the 10 years of recording this podcast, it launched in August of 2016, so not quite 10 years, but if I were 9 years old, I would be telling you that I'm almost 10. One thing that I have been able to keep consistent over all this time is whenever an episode is an increment of 10, when the number ends in 0, I have given you a list of 10 somethings. We've talked about 10 wintry pieces to play that are not Christmas songs. That was handy after the Christmas season if you still wanted to play something that fit with the winter season. I've talked about 10 things that you need to look for when your piano kid is sitting at the piano bench. Not too close, not too far away, not too high, not too low. 10 ways to maintain your piano and give it a little TLC. Anyway, lots of 10 things, and you can find those on the website. There's just a whole category of 10th episodes. Today is no exception. With episode 380, I'm going to share with you 10 rules, life rules, that I have found from a book that was written by Robert Schumann. Let's see, there's a picture. Can you see it clearly? Robert Schumann's Life Rules for Young Musicians. And I don't know how I came across this book. I don't think it was just a suggestion on Amazon. It might have been some other podcast that I was listening to. Somehow I found this book, and it was, I kept it in my cart or on my wish list for a while, and I just ordered it. And I'm not affiliated with whoever produces this book, Vita Music Publishing, musicsheetmusic1.com. Anyway, I'll link up the Amazon link in the show notes for you. Apparently, Robert Schumann had written these rules and had intended them to be included in his album for the young, a collection of pieces that were written for piano students to have things to play as they're learning the instrument. And I don't know if he had different rules to go along with different songs. Something happened in the process of that publication, and the rules were set aside. They just went straight with the music, and so here we are. But somehow later on, the rules got published separately. And I'm the kind of person that I love books. If you could see over my shoulder, this is a whole wall of bookshelves that my dad built into this room. This is supposed to be a formal dining room. We don't formally dine. And when we bought this house, I knew that this would be a perfect music studio. Straight in front of me is the front door. So students enter through the front door. They come in these side doors. And then I have my teaching piano and the baby grand piano behind me. And then there's a comfy window seat. Anyway, surrounding the window seat, tons of books. That's just in this room. In our living room, we have a whole wall of bookshelves that are covered with books there. Some are my husband's, some are my kids from when they were growing up that I haven't gotten rid of. I'm saving for grandkids someday. And even in our bedroom, I have a large, substantial unit, three sets of bookshelves that I have even more books. So I love books. Do I always read them? No. Fortunately for us today, I did pick up this little collection, and I was worried, even though it's so small, I was worried that it would be too much to read. But when I opened it, I was delighted to see that every page has basically one rule on the page, and it's written both in English and Russian and French. And that has apparently his signature, that page did. There are other different drawings and just nice little simple artwork that's on the different pages. So what I have decided to do is offer you 10 of these rules. I don't know how many rules there are total in the book, but I thought we would talk about 10 of them. I put some sticky notes in the book, and so I'm going to just follow the order of the sticky notes. Other than that, there's no order to these rules, and I may need my glasses for some of these. Rule number 1, or at least that I'm sharing with you today, there can be no end to learning. Some of these rules I may expound on and share some of my thoughts along with them. There's not a whole lot to say about that. There's no end to learning, or there can be no end to learning. Do you find that to be the case for you? Even if you've been teaching piano, if you're a piano teacher and you've been teaching for years, it's like the students are always evolving, and the way they approach learning, the way they approach music is constantly changing. Mr. Schumann was a big proponent of studying the great masters. It doesn't sound like he had a lot of patience for new compositions, especially if they weren't worthy compositions in his mind. He and his wife both composed music, but there are some rules that we're not going to get into where he talked about don't waste your time on and don't do anything to promote basically junk. He didn't call it junk. And spend your time studying the masters. They have given us plenty of music to study without us tainting the system with less quality music. As a piano teacher, I'm constantly learning. As a parent, I'm constantly learning. My children are all adults now, and so I relate to them in a completely different way. So I'm learning the boundaries that they establish between what they're comfortable talking to me about, or just different things that they choose as adults. And I'm learning, where my place is, I guess. I'm learning new music. I'm learning new tactics. Anyway, so learning, I can agree with that rule. Let me see where I put number 2. Number 2 says, be humble. You haven't yet thought of or invented anything that wasn't thought of or invented before you. But even if you had managed to do so, consider it a heavenly gift that you must share with others. I like that rule, and I don't really have anything to add to it. Be humble. There's a scripture in the Bible, in Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun. And it's kind of amazing to think of all the developments that have taken place since then. But when it gets right down to it with human nature, there's really nothing new. And if I think of something, I shouldn't be so haughty to think that I'm the first person that thought of it. Here is number 3. Oh, very practical advice. Take a good care of your piano and have it regularly tuned. There you go. Have you had your piano tuned lately? I'll have to confess I'm overdue. I need to call my tuner and see if he can come out and give my pianos a tune-up soon. Where else? Number 4, he says, try to make friends with those who know more than you. It seems like I've heard the saying before, don't be the smartest person in the room. And if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. That kind of ties in with rule number 1, didn't it? We always need to be learning from other people and appreciate the knowledge and the experience that other people might have to contribute to our lives. We can contribute to others as well. We have some experience and we have a voice, but try to make friends with those who know more than you. Pretty cool. Number 5 on my list. Let's see. When When you feel exhausted after completing your daily piano practice, do not push yourself to play more. It would be better to take a break than practice without joy or energy. I don't know about you, but I feel like with today's piano kids, we're hoping that they get more time at the piano. Very, very rarely do they spend so much time at the piano that they would be exhausted. However, they might get exhausted from other activities, and I think it's a good idea for us to know what the limits are, and when can we push just a little bit more, and when do we know that we're going to start having a negative return on that investment if we push too much. When you feel exhausted after completing your daily piano practice, he assumed that it was daily piano practice, do not push yourself to play more. It would be better to take a break than practice without joy or energy. I think that could be true for other things in addition to piano. Nice. Number 6, let's see. Challenge yourself in a choir, especially singing the alto or tenor parts. This will help you become more musical. Interesting. I wish that I could figure out for myself how to encourage my piano students to sing more. Some of them will sing, and I encourage that, and we keep that wave going. Some students are self-conscious and don't sing, and I know some teachers, that's just part of your lesson is we're going to be singing at the piano, and I don't want to force it, but I do want to strongly encourage it. When you can internalize a melody, internalize a rhythm, if you can sing it, then you are more easily able to reproduce that through your fingers on the piano keys. Singing something helps make the rhythm make more sense. It helps the phrasing make more sense because there are places in the music where there may be a phrase mark, a long line, a slur to connect those notes, but then at the end of the slur, you should take a little break, a little breath, like I should have taken before I finished that previous sentence. Music should breathe and shaping the phrase and expressing emotion. When we speak, when we sing, we have different inflections in our voices, and piano playing should imitate that, especially if you're playing something that is very melodically driven. Let the melody sing. That was one of the biggest tips that my mom gave me. My mom had a beautiful voice, and she would sometimes hum along while I was playing the piano. She was not a trained musician or anything. She just knew what she liked to listen to. And sometimes we would go to a concert. I remember specifically this one concert that we went to, and there was a pianist that was just playing every single piano key, and it was just very showy. She didn't enjoy it. She felt like it was my mom did not enjoy it. She felt like it was too flashy. She couldn't follow along. She didn't understand the music that this musician was playing. And so she told me, whenever I was studying my music, to make the piano sing. She loved the melody and wanted to understand the melody as she listened to my music. And I still try to make the piano sing. And if you are comfortable singing while you play, then that makes it that much easier for the piano to sing. And so if your piano kid is, hopefully they're young enough and you can just encourage singing and let that just continue to be part of the way they express themselves musically. And if they're not, let me know if you have any tricks on how to, or tips on how to encourage that. Let's see, that was number 6. Number 7, what does number 7 say? When you play in ensemble, remember, all parts are equal. If everyone wanted to play a first violin, it would be impossible to create an orchestra. Respect each musician in his place. I'm going to read that again. When you play in ensemble, remember, All parts are equal. If everyone wanted to play a first violin, it would be impossible to create an orchestra. Respect each musician in his place. And you're probably thinking what I'm thinking. That's true in ensemble music, but it's true in work. If you work in an office or work someplace where you're dealing with other people, not everybody can be the boss. Not everybody has the temperament to be the boss. Not everybody wants the responsibility to be the boss. So let the boss be the boss. And I'll play my little part over here, and I can harmonize with somebody who's playing their part over there, and we can all respect the role that each other plays. The Bible talks about that not everybody can be an eye and not everybody can be a foot. But if we all fulfill our purpose, then we make this whole body and we all have our function and our service to fulfill. And I think that's really good. My husband plays guitar. I play piano. At our church, we have a banjo player and a bass player and a fiddle and also drums. And we all try to do our part to support the group. Nobody tries to showboat and outplay the others. And because of that, because we all fit in our part of the puzzle, then the congregation gets to enjoy this beautiful music. So if you're playing in an ensemble, see if you can figure out what contribution you can make while still supporting the other musicians. If you see that your music is marked with a P, then take a step back and let someone who their music is marked forte, let them have the spotlight for a little while. Number 8, fluent fingers and brilliant passages play only a secondary role. Only when technical skills serve the higher purpose and reveal the expressive essence of music do they have a real value. What I take from that rule is that kind of like what my mom was saying earlier, that this one piano player was very flashy, could do all these runs and brilliant, big, showy things, but it wasn't something that connected with my mom. Maybe it connected with other people in the audience, but if you're working so hard to be technically accurate and playing something that is so massive, but you lose the humanity of the piece, you lose the musical expression, then what's the point? Years ago, I had the privilege of interviewing Marvin Blickenstaff, who in the piano world was a rock star. He passed earlier this year at the age of 90, and I got to interview him when he was a youngster at the age of 85, I think. But I'll link up his interview in the show notes. But the main point of his conversation, our conversation, was that music's job is to express human emotion. And if we're not expressing emotion, then are we just making noise? Those are my words, not his. But I think Robert Schumann would agree with us. Fluent fingers and brilliant passages play only a secondary role. Only when the technical skills serve the higher purpose and reveal the expressive essence of music do they have a real value. And along those same lines, rule number 9, I keep putting my glasses on and off. It's much better to achieve perfection with an easier piece than barely manage to play a more advanced work. That is a lesson that all of our piano kids can take to heart, and I hope they will take to heart. How many times, if you're a piano teacher, how many times have you had a kid come, their first few months of piano lessons, they sit on your piano bench and say, I want to play Moonlight Sonata, or I want to play For Elise, or Mozart's Rondo alla Turca. These big popular pieces that maybe are iconic because we've heard them a lot and we know that it's only piano, then that becomes our mark, and that's what I want to play, and I want to play it now. And we're not ready for that. That's something that we've got to level up. It's going to take years to master the skills and understand the musical concepts to be able to play that bigger piece. And there should be just as much pride and just as much care taken in playing a more simple piece. And if you can play the simpler piece masterfully, that is a better musical experience. My students are preparing for recital right now, and as we're selecting pieces, I'm going to try to steer them toward a piece that they've already been playing, they've already pretty much mastered. So these next few weeks between now and the actual recital performance, we can work on perfecting that piece. If a student tries to tell me, I want to learn a brand new piece of music and we're 3 weeks out from recital, I'm gonna have to put my foot down and say, I don't think that's a good idea. And I'm not going to support that, because the audience does not want to hear you struggle through this big piece of music. If you want to start working on it now in preparation for next year, then okay, I'll get on board with that. But for this year, let's play something that you already feel confident with, something that you can play without too much stress, and that the audience can enjoy because they're not worried that you're fixing to cause a train wreck at the piano. It is much better to achieve perfection with an easier piece than barely manage to play a more advanced work. Thank you, Mr. Schumann. And then I did save this last rule for last, and it's a little bit long. It says, but what is being musical? If playing a new piece, you often guess how the music will unfold, you are musical. If playing a familiar piece, you can easily memorize it, you are musical. If having a memory slip during the performance, you can improvise the missed part and keep going, you are musical. That means that music is in your heart and mind, not only in your fingers. I'm going to read that one more time just because I want to hear it again myself. Maybe you want to hear it one more time. But what is being musical? If playing a new piece, you often guess how the music will unfold, you're musical. If playing a familiar piece, you can easily memorize it, you are musical. If having a memory slip during the performance, you can improvise the missed part and keep going, you are musical. It means that music is in your heart and mind, not only in your fingers. Have you ever listened to a new piece of music or even played a new piece of music and you thought you knew where it was going harmonically, or you thought you knew how the melody was going to go, and it surprised you and you were amazed and kind of excited about, I wasn't expecting that. That is being musical. And there have been times when I was playing something and I kind of got lost in the music, or maybe my mind wandered and I was able to sort of noodle around until I got my footing back on the piece that I was playing. So thank goodness I feel like I'm musical. Thinking back to that ensemble playing, or being around people that know more than you. In my younger days, I felt very intimidated. I didn't study much of Robert Schumann's music. I didn't study much of classical music at all. My background was more in church music and also reading music. If I didn't have the piece in front of me, then I felt pretty lost. Over the years, I've come to appreciate the skills that I have acquired. And I can play church music, and I can read a hymn, but then improvise and add a little bit more than the notes that are printed on the page. And because of my husband playing guitar and working on chord charts with him, then I can play I can play from a chord chart with confidence, but then I can also kind of improvise and almost play a song by memory. If I know the chords, or I know what my chord options are, then I can play along with him and the banjo player and the bass player and the other guys from our church band. I've come to appreciate the voice that I have in music. It may not be the same as your voice. You may have been classically trained. Your piano kid may be being classically trained right now. Maybe you play a musical instrument, and that's why it's so important for your piano kid to be learning music. Maybe you didn't have lessons when you were younger and you have wanted your piano kid to learn because that was an opportunity, either an opportunity you missed or an opportunity you didn't take full advantage of when you were coming up. But even if that's the case, even if you don't still play your instrument, I would say you are still musical. If you listen to a piece of music and it surprises you because it takes a different turn than you were predicting, that's being musical. When you listen to your child playing music and your heart is stirred with emotion, you are musical. And I thank you so much for instilling that love of music that you have into your piano kids and encouraging them to be able to do these other things. Be so familiar with a piece that they memorize it easily. Or if they have a memory slip, they're so familiar with the key of the piece and they're able to improvise until they can get back on track. So you are musical. You're helping your piano kid to be musical. And I'm very grateful to Robert Schumann, who is reminding us of what it is to be musical. So I'm glad I found this book. There are other rules. Let's see. Get gradually acquainted with all the most important work of the great composers. See, I told you, I don't think he wanted to waste his time learning something that wasn't worthwhile, which makes me think he must have put great care into his compositions. Remember, these rules were supposed to be included in his album for the young. If he had that much passion about what he would study himself, it makes me think he took a lot of care into what he wrote for young musicians. Maybe I need to take another look at Mr. Schumann's music. I know I'm going to put this book next to my parent chair so that students waiting for their lesson or parents waiting for their piano kids' lesson can maybe enjoy some of these rules. I wonder, which rule did you connect with the most? I'd love to hear from you. You can connect with me on Instagram at Piano Parent Podcast, or you can send me an email to Shelly at pianoparentpodcast.com. I appreciate you listening to this episode, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next time. And that's the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for hanging around all the way to the end. If you haven't done so already, this would be a great time for you to hit the subscribe button. If you're listening through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever your favorite podcast player is, hit subscribe so you will be the first to receive next week's episode. I would love to connect with you. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Piano Parent Podcast, and you could just email me, Shelly at pianoparentpodcast.com.